you can't help but think where he could have reached in the WWE had he not got caught for steroids and all the bad luck he had faced before that.
Yeah, that's a tough break, man. Like, and I found that odd that he returned for one night only to get released the next day. What's happening, people? It's your boy Blaze here, back to you with another one here for Venomous Reactions, and today we got an intriguing video from Top 10 Wrestling. And this is called Wrestlers Who Killed Their Own Careers. Woo! I don't think this deserves like, well, I don't know how many is going to be on this one. This is my first time checking it out, but we all know when it comes to wrestlers and their own careers, sometimes their ego can be a bit of a downfall to their own careers. Like they get to a certain status and they think they're larger than life, but let's be real, nobody is larger than life when it comes to wrestling. Like you could be at the top of the game and you can still get the axe, or you could be on the rise and get the axe, period. So we're gonna see what Top 10 Wrestling is talking about with this one. So without further ado, let's get it.
The wrestling industry is always changing and always on the move. In just an instant, a wrestler can go from being a star on the rise to a complete nobody. And while most of the time that's down to the booker, there are times where wrestlers are the ones who are entirely responsible for the deaths of their own careers. And today we're going to discuss a few of those wrestlers and a few of those cases, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about wrestlers who killed their own careers.
Oh, Mr.
Ken Anderson was signed to the WWE in February 2005 and would report down to OVW, and he had a tumultuous first couple of months in the company, as according to him, Jim Cornette, who was in charge of OVW at the time, didn't see much in him. But when Jim Cornette was fired and Paul Heyman came in to replace him, he showed much more interest in him and called him up to the main roster immediately. He mainly wrestled as a jobber on the B shows like Velocity and Heat when he was first called up, going through various name changes before finally landing on Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy would make his...
I ain't gonna lie, man. The whole Mr. Kennedy angle, man, the character, he came off as brash, as cocky and arrogant, and he would even get into a bit of a feud with Tony Chimmel, who was doing the ring announcer on SmackDown. And it was like, you know what, get the hell out the way, I'm gonna do my own damn announcement. Like, get out of here, and I can do it better than you. But yo, Mr. Kennedy, man, he had that factor in there to be something special. But sometimes you can be into your own head sometimes, and it could kill any momentum that you have going into the main roster. And I believe that's what happened with Mr. Kennedy, from my take.
His SmackDown debut in August of 2005 and would begin a win streak for himself on the brand. This win streak would last for 4 months before he was finally defeated by Eddie Guerrero in November. And Mr. Kennedy
Eddie's last match,
and it looked like a program was going to be starting between the two, but tragically Eddie Guerrero passed away just 2 days later, meaning Mr.
rest in
Kennedy
peace, Latino
has the
Heat.
unfortunate honor of being Eddie Guerrero's final match. Mr. Kennedy would continue on, but would face injury during a WWE Italy tour and would be out for 6 months, potentially stalling his career. However, WWE were clearly intent on pushing him, because when he returned months later, Mr. Kennedy was straight back to winning ways, and in September 2006, he won the United States Championship, his first and only WWE title win. He would
Sadly.
lose the title after only a month, but luckily for him, WWE had even bigger plans for him as he set his sights on the world title and even challenged for the big gold at the 2007 Rumble against Batista. He came out unsuccessful, but his future chances of winning the title increased when he won the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 23, the biggest.
Man, that was the highlight of Mr. Kennedy's career. And for him to drop the briefcase to Edge, I know there's more to the story than that, than him just dropping the briefcase over to Edge. Like, there's more to the story as to why that happened. I mean, I never really understood why, but I believe he's going to tell why in just a second. I'm just betting.
Win of his career so far before he put the briefcase on the line in a random TV match against Edge, which Edge ended up winning because there was a fear Mr. Kennedy suffered a major injury and they changed the finish of the match. And while it was true that Kennedy did get injured, it wasn't as major as they thought, and maybe not enough for him to lose the Money in the Bank briefcase, so he kind of lost the briefcase for no reason at all. And when Kennedy returned from this injury, WWE had one final plan to finally propel him to the top and finally give him that push they've wanted to give him but keep getting delayed on. And that was by having him be revealed as Vince McMahon's illegitimate son. It was all made up, it made perfect storyline sense, and then he got suspended for steroids. We instead got Hornswoggle being revealed as Vince's son, and WWE completely gave up on pushing Mr. Kennedy after this. Kennedy was one of 11 total WWE wrestlers who were suspended for taking steroids at the same time as him, and it effectively killed his career as he coasted around on the WWE roster for 2 years after this, doing pretty much nothing but just floating around in the mid-card. But the final straw was when he nearly injured Randy Orton on an April 2009 Raw episode by botching a move during a match. Orton complained backstage to management, and Mr. Kennedy was fired by the WWE 4 days later. Mr. Kennedy would end up going to TNA, where he would get his world title run as Mr. Anderson, and it was a decent run he had in TNA, but you can't help but think where he could have reached in the WWE had he not got caught for steroids and all the bad luck he had faced before that.
Yeah, that's a tough break, man. Like, and I found that odd that he returned for one night only to get released the next day, only because he botched the move on Randy Orton. And you know, Randy Orton, he voiced his thoughts about it, and that led to Mr. Kennedy's future endeavor. And that's tough. That's really tough. But yeah, when you're in the ring, you have to protect not only yourself, but protect the person that you're wrestling, so that way you can put on a solid show. And I feel like it's more to it than just that simple botch. Like, there's more to that story, or maybe Randy Orton did not like Mr. Kennedy being in the company at that time. I don't know, but I feel it's more to it than just a botch. I mean, it may be just me, but I'm just saying. Sexy Star.
Sexy Star is a Mexican women's wrestler who has been an active wrestler since 2006. For just under the first decade of her career, Sexy Star would only ever wrestle in Mexico, mainly wrestling for AAA, which are the top promotion in Mexico. And during her time in AAA, she would become one of the most successful women stars in the history of the company. But in 2014, we would see the launch of Lucha Underground, which was a brand new wrestling promotion and a wrestling show that was portrayed as an episodic and lineal drama. Taking place in an underground Lucha Libre league, the show was filmed in Los Angeles and aired on the El Rey network across all the states. And with that came the hiring of many Mexican wrestlers, including Sexy Star, who would get her first exposure to an American audience. And Sexy Star was a quick hit in Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground allowed intergender wrestling, and this worked to Sexy Star's advantage as she quickly became one of Lucha Underground's most popular wrestlers. And she reached her peak in Lucha Underground Season 3 when she won Season 3's Aztec Warfare match where she defeated 19
Ooh.
other wrestlers in a Rumble match to win the Lucha Underground Championship, the top title in the company. And while she would lose the title on the next episode, the fact she won it in the first place showed that she was a big enough star to be put in that position.
But I ain't gonna lie,
what
that's
happened
sick.
next? Where was she a year from this point? Surely she should be propelled into the next level in her wrestling career. No, a year from winning the top prize on Lucha Underground, she was blacklisted from wrestling. How on earth did this happen? Well, it was of course from the Rosemary incident. Sexy Star would make a return to AAA while Lucha Underground was off filming and not airing, and she would win their women's title, and she would defend the title at their Triple Mania event, which is their biggest event of the year, defending it in a 4-way match against Hamada, Lady Shani, and of course Rosemary. In this match she would retain after making Rosemary tap out to an armbar, which she then wouldn't let go of. The bell would continue to ring, referee would try to separate her, and she just refused to let go, and eventually she did let go, but we know what we just saw. We just witnessed Sexy Star lock in a real life armbar on Rosemary and refused to let go. And the wrestling...
Ooh. A real life armbar on Rosemary, and I'm familiar with Rosemary, and to go unscripted, that could lead you to some backstage heat, especially if that was not planned, and for her to lock in the armbar like for real, oh, like she was trying to rip her arm off, like no. I wonder what happened to make Sexy Star do something like that. Like it leaves you to wonder, like, whoa, what led to this? To having an unscripted moment. You feel me?
World was set ablaze by this moment, and Sexy Star was effectively blacklisted from wrestling, with wrestlers taking to Twitter to criticize Sexy Star, with the most notable criticism coming from Cody Rhodes, who was seemingly working every wrestling company at
the
that
American
time. He
Nightmare.
stated that he would never share a locker room with Sexy Star, which effectively blacklisted her from the entire US Indies. And she's never wrestled for a major company since this incident. She never reappeared for Lucha Underground, and the Sexy Star name and character is now being used by a completely different person and a different wrestler.
Ouch. Robbie McAllister.
You probably might be wondering who on earth Robbie McAllister is, and I wouldn't blame you. His most famous WWE moment was how he got fired, and it technically didn't even happen in the WWE. We'll get there, okay? So Robbie McAllister was one half of the Highlanders, a Scottish tag team.
That was their name.
Himself and his brother Rory McAllister. They made their...
I was stuck on what was the tag team name, like, and then he just said it, the Highlanders. Like, oh, yep, that clicked off immediately. And I remember their one and only chance at the tag team titles was at Unforgiven of 06, if I'm not mistaken, against the damn Spirit Squad. I wish they were forgettable. I'm just saying, man, like, damn.
Wrestling debut in 2001 and would wrestle on the indies for a few years before in 2005 they were signed to the WWE. They signed in July and reported to OVW, which was developmental at the time, and they spent only a few months in developmental before their main roster debut started getting teased in mid-2006, and sure enough, in July 2006 they would make their debut on Monday Night Raw. And they'd go on a bit of a win streak, as for the next 3 weeks they would squash other tag teams weekly until they got a title shot at the Spirit Squad, and when they lost that match they were jobbers for the rest of their WWE careers, and it became very rare to see them win unless it was on heat. They literally had 3 weeks
Unfortunately,
of wins, and
yes.
WWE were like, yeah, nah, we're done with you. On another note though, this era's tag division sounds absolutely cooked. The Highlanders versus the Spirit Squad squad for the titles, bloody hell man. And the Highlanders did nothing for the next 2 years in WWE except for jobbing, with their appearances mainly coming from Heat and their Raw appearances being very occasional. But WWE still kept them around regardless, and they still had a job with the company. Even if they were jobbing, they were clearly seen as useful in their jobber roles. But in March of 2008, an incident would take place with Robbie that would destroy both of their WWE careers. On the 27th of March 2008, TNA were broadcasting an Impact episode, and Robbie McAllister was in attendance at the show. Of course, he's in the WWE, and we know this, we know he was at the show because he was shown on camera, live on TNA and on TV. And reportedly following his sighting at the TNA show, Robbie would receive an angry phone call from WWE officials ordering him to leave the show immediately, and as a result, he was made to miss WrestleMania that was in just a few weeks, be squashed by JBL in a minute in a match that probably got booked in Wrestlers Court, and 3 months later him and his brother Rory were both fired, and him
yeah, Wrestlers Court can be brutal. I've heard the stories, and once you go up against Wrestlers Court, oh, that just like this, don't expect the worst, because the worst is gonna happen. And for him to get squashed by JBL in under a minute, yeah, that's living proof. I'm sorry.
Showing up at TNA has largely been blamed for why they were fired. If we're being real, knowing Vince McMahon, he probably didn't even know these two existed before Robbie showed up on TNA. And regardless if they were jobbers or not, the Highlanders still were working in the WWE, and after Robbie turned up in TNA and ultimately got the two of them fired, Robbie would continue to wrestle and even have a match as recently as last month at 49 years old, but he was never able to reach anywhere near WWE ever again, and TNA didn't even give him the hire for getting him fired. Like, come on lads, that's the least you could have done.
Ouch.
Anyway guys, that's it
that
from
sucks.
me. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and a comment on what video you want to see next. Subscribe for more pro wrestling content. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye and keep on rolling.
Yep. Turning up in another promotion while you're employed by a major promotion, that can lead to your downfall and can lead to you getting fired. And oh, poor Robbie. He was just there to attend the show, and when he got that call from officials and they were sounding pissed off, like, bro, get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there before something worse happens. And granted, the fact something worse did happen, like he went up against Wrestlers Court, and he got jobbed horribly. And not long after, he got released. Wow. This is why you gotta watch what you do. You gotta protect yourself at all costs. Don't do anything risky to put your career in jeopardy. And Mr. Kennedy's case, there's more to that story. There's more to that story than what people let on. But the whole sexy star thing, yo, I don't blame him for blacklisting her, because bro, you put in the armbar for real, you try to rip someone's arm up and try to break their arm and shatter their arm, like, no. Like, I would blacklist you myself. I'm just saying. But yo, let me know what your thoughts are about this one. Were people unjustly crucified in their careers in the ring? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this one, and don't forget to tell your peoples across the globe. So kick it with your boys just one good solid time. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to click that bell so you don't miss a video from the kid. You feel me? And please feel free to follow me on social media right over yonder. Now this is your boy Blaze saying Chuck the Deuce, and I will see y'all in the next video, and I'm out.